My wife died recently, and during the process of probate and getting documents in order, I discovered a long-lost file. It contained the remnants of page 50, the mail on Sunday, January 23, 1994, and papers relating to shares and warrants in Kleinwort European Privatization Investment Trust. My address at the time was in Scotland, but changed about 20 years ago, and I have lost track of the trust, so my question is, how does one trace these shares? There may be other 87-year-old computer illiterates who have this problem and would be interested. Tanya Jefferies, of This Is Money, replies, many people have old, long-forgotten share documents tucked away and don't know what to do when they discover them years later. Over the years, companies often merge or change names, so tracking down shares isn't always straightforward. We asked an investing expert from a top stockbroking firm how to investigate old shares purchased in the past and find out what they are worth now. Late Khalaf of Hargreaves Lansdown explains how best to pursue such enquiries below. We also approached Experian to run a search on its Unclaimed Assets Register.This normally costs people £25, but it looked into this one for free and contacted you direct to discuss what you remember about your shares. If a search on its register doesn't turn up anything straight away, Experian will keep the request open for another 6 years. Unfortunately, in your case, it wasn't able to find your investment in the first instance, but you will now remain on its books in case it discovers anything else during this period. The mail on Sunday's library unearthed a copy of the paper from the date you gave, and the advertisement about your investment trust that appeared on page 50 is reproduced above. Laith Khalaf, senior analyst at Hargreaves Lansdown, replies, tracing old investments can be a tricky procedure, particularly if they were bought before the internet age, when information was less readily available. Developments in the investment industry now mean that this is less likely to happen, as most investors now hold their investments together in one account which they can view and manage online. However, sometimes old documents pop up which relate to investments made when paper was the norm, which can present a bit more of a challenge. Usually, any documentation that you have will contain the name and number of the company which administers your investment. This might be a share registrar, fund manager, or broker, depending on what kind of investment it is and who bought it. In which case, it's just a matter of calling them up and finding out what happened to your investment and how you go about selling it. Occasionally there may be a little bit of pillar to post in this endeavor, seeing as over such a long time period, it's possible the administration of the investment has changed hands. Indeed, that would appear to be the case with this trust, which was wound up in the 1990s. Your investment may have been returned in cash, or you may have rolled over into a new fund, depending on what was elected at the time. If the investment has been wound up, ask if it has any records of what investors did with their holdings at that time. If they were rolled into another investment, find out whether that still exists or what eventually happened to it. It appears that, following a few mergers and takeovers, your investment could have ended up with financial giant Alliance. A spokesperson for Kleinwort European, which did some digging into the history of the trust for us, explains, in October 1997, when its management moved to Dresdner RCM, it changed its name to Dresdner RCM European Privatization Trust. In 1999, the investment trust wound up, and investors received either cash or units in the Dresdner RCM European Index Trust, and The Dresdner RCM European Index Trust merged into another of the Dresdner RCM range at some point. Later, Alliance took over Dresdner Bank, and the Dresdner RCM funds were renamed Alliance Global Investors Funds. We therefore suggest you ask about your holdings at Alliance Global Investors, 199 Bishopsgate, London EC2M3TY. The phone number is 02078599000.